Okay, I show 10 o'clock on my clock, and if you're ready, Administrator Watson, I am ready to go.
I am too.
Okay, good. All right, it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to this special legislative meeting of the Management Labor Advisory Committee. I am co-chair Patrick Priest, representing the management side. And as we do each of our meetings, I want to start with an affirmation. We would like to thank everyone for their time, effort, and participation in our work before us today. We want to recognize that it's very difficult and important work, and we appreciate and value the perspectives and professionalism that everyone brings here today. Thank you very much. And just a quick note before I turn it over for roll call. It is a really busy agenda. We only do have an hour. And so we're going to limit public comment to 2 minutes. And we're going to pause at 45 minutes, 15 minutes before the hour to check in to see if we need to do a caucus. So just a little bit of time management to start out with. And with that, I will turn it over to Administrator Watson to do roll call.
Okay. Sarah Merrick.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Sarah Duckwall.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. Co-chair Strickland.
Present by video.
Good morning, Scott. Ryan Hearn. Ryan Hearn. Did you see him on the list?
He's not.
Not? Okay. Maybe he'll join us later. Margaret Waddell.
I'm here, thank you.
Good morning, Margaret. Stacy Llewellyn.
Present, good morning.
Good morning, Stacy. Co-chair Priest, of course, is here. Emily Cronin.
Present by video.
Good morning, Emily. And Kim Schlesinger. Okay. And Director O'Day is in the room. Morning.
Good morning.
All right, Co-chair, we have a quorum.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll meet, no, but nobody from the management side can leave, right? We need to.
That's right.
Okay, well, with that, I'm going to start our public comment section. And we have two that are interested in speaking on House Bill 4040. The first that's been identified is Matt Tompkins. And so, Mr. Tompkins, if you're ready, you can go ahead and you have 2 minutes. Well, it sounds like we may not have him, but we'll return back later if he joins a little bit later in our public comment section. The next is Daryl Brett. Mr. Brett, are you?
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Well, first off, thank you all for being there this morning and helping to take care of our injured workers. I'm retired now. I've been retired about a year. I'm a neurosurgeon by training, and 99% of my work was spine and necks and backs. So in practice for 42 years, mostly at Adventist Medical Center, I did about 25,000 surgeries during my career and saw about 500,000 new patients in order to winnow out those who needed surgery, but even more patient encounters in general in terms of rechecks. I worked a lot with the chiropractic community. I had a PA working for me, so familiar with PAs and their work. I actually had 3 PAs during my career and worked a lot with nurse practitioners who would refer patients to me. And we'd chat on the phone about the care of those patients. In my experience, I think the chiropractors do an excellent job. I think much more of their practice is devoted to spine care, necks and backs, and headaches related to neck injuries. Whereas the PAs and the nurse practitioners, unless they're working for a spine practitioner, are going to be seeing, chronic illness, hypertension, mental health issues, acute infections from sinusitis to ear trouble to chest infections. And I think that in their average day, they're really not seeing back and neck pain, let alone work injuries that cause those issues. I think the chiropractic physicians, on the other hand, are seeing a lot of neck and back pain in their practice. And I just think they have much more experience. So that's my opinion, would be to have the chiropractors continue to provide the excellent care that in my experience they have.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And you're right at 2 minutes. So good job with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see, did we have our other public comment for this House bill available? Matt Tompkins, did he join in?
Co-chair, I do not see him,
All right.
the participants.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. And so we'll move on to a public comment on Senate Bill 1506. And this is Anthony Smith from the National Federation of Independent Businesses.
Thank you, co-chairs and members of the committee. I am Anthony Smith. I represent the National Federation of Independent Business. NFIB represents thousands of small businesses across the state in every industry sector, many being the smallest of small businesses, with about 90% of our members in Oregon having fewer than 25 employees and 70% having fewer than 10 employees. And together, our members provide jobs for tens of thousands of Oregonians. Here today to share NFIB's concerns with Senate Bill 1506. We have some policy and process reasons for opposing the measure. The policy reason, the Workers Benefit Fund, as you know, supports programs specifically related to injured workers. It's supported equally by management and labor. I'll acknowledge that when an injured worker has a discrimination claim based on the worker's status as an injured worker, the WBF pays BOLI to investigate that claim. But that's where BOLI's nexus to the WBF starts and stops. If the legislature wants to provide additional resources to the Bureau, they can do so in a myriad of ways. For example, they can prioritize the agency's work with existing general fund dollars. And to put that in perspective, they spent $1 billion with a B from the general fund in the final appropriations bill of the 2025 legislative session. Another tactic they could use is to enact a new tax to raise revenue sufficient to pay for the agency's work, which leads me to the process issue. According to the Oregon Constitution, a bill for raising revenue must start in the Oregon House of Representatives, and it must pass both chambers by the legislature by a 3/5 supermajority. And typically, when a bill is identified by its drafters as a bill for raising revenue, a note is added in the relating to clause designating it as a measure that requires this vote threshold. Senate Bill 1506 is introduced is obviously a Senate bill, and it's a placeholder relating to the Bureau of Labor and Industry, so it does not include a 3/5 requirement, and I don't expect to see one added when the amendments come out, because the Legislative Council went on the record in a legislative committee hearing earlier this month to say that this bill for raising revenue to fund a state agency's core services is not a bill for raising revenue. My response to that is, if the bill is not being
Mr. Smith,
introduced-
I'm sorry to comment, but it's at 2 minutes. So that is the end of the public comment. So I apologize for that.
Co-chair,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, if you have more, you can submit your testimony in writing and we can put it on the MLAC website.
I'll do that. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much, and it was very valuable information. I appreciated it. Is there anyone else that has not identified in advance but would like to make public comment at this time?
Hi, Kathleen Taylor here. I'm not sure if that means you would like me to testify now, or if I'm going to be invited up at another time, please. So I'll leave it to you, Co-Chair Priest.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator Taylor. It's a pleasure to welcome you here. You're actually very close to being on the agenda, so you can.
Oh, I feel so special. Great. I will wait till I'm called.
Yeah.
Thank you, Co-Chair Priest.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for being here. All right. Anyone else that would like to speak? All right. Let's see. I see one person, Kendrick Koo.
Yeah, hi. Would it be all right if I gave a short comment?
You may. You have 2 minutes.
Perfect. My name is Kendrick Koo. I'm a private practice orthopedic spine surgeon practicing in the Portland area. I was hoping to speak on behalf of my experience with chiropractors and chiropractic physicians. And I would begin with that the Oregon's workers' compensation system would likely benefit and is largely built around timely access to care, functional recovery, and safe return to work. Chiropractic physicians already serve as treating physicians for appropriate claims directly supporting these goals. Most accepted workers' compensation claims in Oregon and in my practice typically involve uncomplicated musculoskeletal conditions of the back, neck, and extremities. These are typically conditions that the chiropractors already are specifically trained to diagnose and manage through conservative and evidence-based care. Chiropractic treatment emphasizes early non-invasive intervention, hands-on care, therapeutic exercise, and functional restoration. They have experience in diagnostic imaging review, referrals, and preventing unnecessary escalation of care. They already operate effectively within the workers' compensation system, and they are often a point of entry for most patients. And in practice, I think expanding the recognition of chiropractors as treating physicians can improve access to care, especially in rural underserved areas, as is much of the state of Oregon, and honestly, even within metro areas such as Portland. And they can reduce delays and most commonly seen in transferring care between healthcare providers. Lastly, appropriate recognition of chiropractors as treating physicians beyond the short term of 60 days or 18 visits would not mean unlimited care. Chiropractors would remain subject to the same scope limitations, utilization review, and outcome expectations as all treating physicians. So I would kind of advocate on behalf of commitment for chiropractors to continue supporting the workers' compensation population. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping it at 2 minutes. So is there anyone else that would like to make some public comment? Okay, seeing none. We do have one quick bit of business, which is to act on the minutes from the last meeting, January 22nd. They have been distributed. Is there anyone who would like make a motion to approve?
Chair Priest, I'll motion to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a second?
Second. I'll second.
We had 2 seconds. I don't know, is it the 2 Sarahs?
Sarah
Yeah.
can take it.
Okay, right. And then is there any discussion?
I think that was Emily. That
Oh,
was
it
the
was Emily.
second, not me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, Emily is the second. Thank you for your graciousness, both Stacy and Sarah. And is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I vote aye as well. Are there any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. And with that, we move on to our presentations. They're titled on the agenda LCs, but they have become bills.
Yes.
Since we did this. And the first up is from the Honorable Senator Kathleen Taylor. Thank you for being here today. Senate Bill 1506-1. And so I will turn it over to you now. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Co-Chair Priest and Strickland, members of the MLAC committee. Do I have a time limit? I'm not going to talk for very long, but I'm just curious if I have a time limit.
You don't, 45 minutes. We're going to stop at 45 minutes to see if we
yeah,
need
I mean,
to
I do have the gift of gab, but I will try to not take up that whole
Yeah.
time. So in all seriousness, I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm happy that we're having this dialogue about Senate Bill 1506. I've actually never testified before MLAC, even though I've been the chair of the Labor and Business Committee for quite some time. But so this is my first time before you. Obviously, I follow everything that you do very closely, but this is my first time testifying. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. I have some prepared comments, which I will read into the record, and then a few things that I would like to add. So starting with that, co-chairs Priest and Strickland and members of the MLAC committee. My name is Kathleen Taylor, State Senator for Senate District 21. I represent Inner Southeast Portland, Milwaukee, and Oak Grove. And as I think many of you know, I am the chair of the Labor and Business Committee in the Senate. And I've had that position for, this is my 5th or 6th session. I have to stop and think about that a little bit. So I want to thank you for your work on this committee. Obviously, I follow all of your appointments really closely, and I'm always really want to make certain how balanced it is. And I have to say, in the whole time I've been in the legislature, it's really been an honor and a privilege, and I've really appreciated being able to work with all of you on MLAC. And as you know, a lot of the measures that come before my committee end up before you. And so it's always really important that we keep this dialogue going. So I appreciate that we're going to have this conversation today. I'm going to obviously have Josh Nasby from BOLI go over the technical aspects of the bill. I know a lot of you have been following it. But for right now, I just want to talk to you about why I chose for this bill to be one of my personal bills for the session. Okay, we are only allowed 2 personal bills, and this is one of mine. So it's not a committee bill, it's one of my personal bills. So just to put that on the record there. As you're aware, there was a Senate bill last session that just would have added BOLI to the list of purposes that the Worker Benefit Fund would support. That's what was going to happen in the 2025 session, and I think most of you were aware of that. My position then was that funding BOLI is not what the Worker Benefit Fund was established to support, and I was skeptical of that when that concept was brought to my attention, okay? However, I understood that a split funding between workers and employees made sense. I worked with stakeholders to amend that bill to get it closer to what you see today in Senate Bill 1506 with the -1 amendment, where the BOLI funding is separate. That's the really, really key point here, is separate from the Worker Benefit Fund. Ultimately, that bill nor its amendments moved forward. And as you're aware, BOLI was allocated just under $15 million from what some would argue was a surplus from the Worker Benefit Fund to support the critical work of ensuring workers are protected and employers have the resources they need to follow the law. Senate Bill 1506-1 is the product of a work group that I convened alongside with members of both parties, both chambers, representatives from business and labor, and the governor's office. We met 8 times between the fall and early this year and looked at every possible funding option for BOLI. Many of the funding mechanisms we looked at and we looked at other states as well, require primarily employers to contribute, or like the state of Washington, the money comes directly from the workers' compensation rates. Ultimately, the work group settled on the concept that Josh will go over next, which you see in the measure before you. I just want to stress how important it is to me that the money collected stays separate from the Workers' Benefit Fund. I've obviously been connected to MLAC and worked within the Worker Benefit Fund and all of that, and I have never advocated or wanted anything to ever compromise or adjust or change. And so again, in the 2025 session, I was very clear that we're not going to be doing things to alter what the purpose of the Worker Benefit Fund is. So the amendment that we want to, this bill, and you'll see in the language, will make it so that the money is kept separate. And that way we will be able to track it in a very, DCBS will be looking at it and saying, okay, this is the money, this is where it's going, and we'll be able to have clear eyes on what it's being used for. So there's the amendment before you. I understand from third parties that there have been some questions from the members of the MLAC committee about this measure. Completely reasonable. I would be really surprised if there weren't questions. And you have had the amendment just for a short time. Also understand that, have been in that position myself many times of having an amendment only brought to me, and then you have to review it and look at it. I am asking here today that you engage amongst yourselves, and I know you have your own system for how you caucus and to look at things. And my request today is for us to talk about what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. And I want to assure every single person of MLAC that there has never been any intention by me, and I have no track record whatsoever of wanting to, for lack of better term, muck around with the Worker Benefit Fund. It's a very, very serious responsibility that the state has. We've had this for decades, and we need to make certain that it is preserved. Josh, again, will go over the details of what is in this measure. And we think that we have found, again, with the work group that was established, and you'll hear others testify. We have Sean O'Day here from DCBS, and I think you'll be hearing him talk about how, boy, they ran us through the ringer. Jeezy, wheezy beesies. They had us go through and make certain that everything was very much that it had to be separate. How would it be implemented? And it was, these are very serious conversations. And I'm convinced, because I also feel like I need to hold DCBS accountable, that they would be able to implement it the way that the language was drafted. Because it's not just about the bill passing and the language passing. In order for this to do as intended, DCBS had to come forward and say, we think we can actually implement this and do it the way that the language is stated, and that the funds would be kept separate and would not alter what has been going on, obviously, for decades, of how the worker benefit fund was there. One of the things I asked for to be sent over to all of you, and I don't know if you've had a chance to review it, because I think it only came through recently to all of you, is to show the product of the work group of all the things that we reviewed. And I mean, we looked at everything. Labor, business, we had the state of Washington come and testify, we had research done about what's done in other states, and et cetera. And where we landed was to have this balance of having this cost paid equally by workers and by employers. And some of the other things that were looked at were, for example, solely an assessment on business and some of the other things. And I am trying here to have there be a balance. And I would argue that it's appropriate to have funds made available through this mechanism by taking this 1/10 of 1% per worker, per employer, so that that amount of, that there's money made available so that BOLI can do its work. And I would say that making certain that there can be civil rights investigations and et cetera, they're trying to fund positions. And BOLI, as we all know, has been terribly, terribly underfunded. There is not I would be shocked if you could find a Republican or a Democrat who would say, at least in the time I've been in the legislature and everyone I've served with, everyone understands the challenges that BOLI has with its funding, and it's reliant on general fund. I have been in those rooms at the end of sessions where, I would literally begging for, oh my gosh, can we please get some money to BOLI so they can do their work? Was I successful sometimes? Yes, but overall, we do not have a stable source of funding. And that is what the whole purpose of all of this is. And I convened the work group, and that's why you have seen support from the business community on this, because what I wanted was a bipartisan bill that labor and management and business agreed upon. And this is why I'm here today, to hope that we can have this dialogue, because I want it to be that it's equally being paid. So, because employers have needs too, and they need BOLI to function, and they need to be able to contact BOLI and to, because sometimes the investigation, the employer's in the right and the employee's in the wrong. I mean, it's a balance. And we need to be able to make certain that BOLI has the appropriate staffing in order to be able to do its job. And part of the job is obviously doing various types of investigations. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Relying on the general fund, I was about to use the word colleagues. I would like to think we're all colleagues. That's not reality. It isn't reality anymore. It really, really isn't. If that was that simple, I would just go to the presiding officers and the co-chairs of Ways and Means. You know what the state budget crunches are looking like. That's not going to happen. And the people that will suffer will be both the employees and the employers. And so I also want to just emphasize that, again, I heard from third parties that their questions, happy to answer them, of me, of BOLI, et cetera. We have Sean O'Day here. I want everyone to be assured about what actually is in this bill and how the charges to the employee and the employer will work. With that being said, I am very open to an amendment. I already have had a conversation this morning with Mr. O'Day, who brought to my attention there's a couple very specific language issues that they would like to see changed. And I respect that they're the experts in this space. And so they're technical changes. And I've already said that makes sense. I mean, I'm certainly not going to try to get in the way of any of that. And I want to emphasize to every member of the MLAC committee here today that I am very, very open. And I think that you'll see that my committee will be open to your feedback. And I'm hoping that we can work together. And if there needs to be something put into this bill with a new amendment, which is already going to have to be drafted anyway in order to address the technical issues that DCBS brought to my attention, I'm asking, can we please work together? let me work with you so that we can all be assured that we are not altering nothing. There never has been any intention to change the way the worker benefit fund, what its purpose is, how it's going to be managed going forward. It's not, there's no intention to change any of that. And I really, really want to emphasize that with all of you today. So with that, I'll stop and I will see if, I don't know if anyone has any questions or whatever, or I can just turn it over to Josh. It's obviously up to you, Co-Chair Priest.
Well, I know you're very busy, so I will pause.
Oh, I'm here to stay. I'm here to stay. I'm here to stay.
You're here to stay. Oh, okay, all right. Are there any questions among the caucus members at this time? It was a very good explanation. I take that as meaning it was well explained. Thank you for that. And I guess we will take our next presenter, which is Josh Nasby, who I understand is going to give us a little more detail on the bill itself.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Co-chairs, members of the committee, my name is Josh Nasby, and I'm with the Bureau of Labor and Industries. Very grateful for your time today. Appreciate it very much. I know how valuable it is. As Senator Taylor explained, she's been working for some time on an amendment to Senate Bill 1506 that provides the Bureau with the resources necessary to do the work we've been statutorily assigned to do, while ensuring that the Workers' Benefit Fund is fully insulated and fully protected from any impacts associated with the bully-related funding. Yesterday, the Office of Legislative Counsel produced an advanced draft copy of the amendment so that this committee could have legislative language to review. And I was hoping to spend just a couple minutes. I'm sensitive to your timeline. I'm hoping to spend just a couple minutes talking you through the proposed legislation. You may recall from our conversation last week that Senate Bill 1506 proposes to utilize the same collection and distribution mechanisms as the Workers' Benefit Fund. I like to refer to it as the infrastructure. And the goal is to separately collect and distribute the funds necessary to support a portion of the Bureau's operations. And following Senator Taylor's bipartisan bicameral work group that she referenced that included representatives from business, from labor, and from the governor's office, after that work group concluded, the senators continued to work with the Bureau, with DCBS, and with Legislative Counsel to address the concerns this committee raised in 2025. And to that end, I want to reiterate that Senate Bill 1506 does not sweep any money from the Workers' Benefit Fund. The bill does not change the amount of money flowing into the Workers' Benefit Fund in any way. The Workers' Benefit Fund is still required to maintain 12 months of projected expenditures. Neither MLAC's role nor DCBS's role vis-a-vis the Workers' Benefit Fund changes. And perhaps most significantly, the operation of programs funded by the Workers' Benefit Fund does not change at all. And I'd like to quickly point out a few specific provisions in the amendment that were specifically added to protect our workers' compensation system and the Workers' Benefit Fund. The amendment creates a BOLI expenses fund. It is its own fund, entirely separate and distinct from the Workers' Benefit Fund. You can see that in sections 2 and 3. The amendment requires that any adjustments to the workers' benefit assessment is made separately from any adjustments to the BOLI expenses assessments and vice versa. You can see that in section 5, both in subsection 4C and in subsection 7C. The amendment expressly prohibits using monies in the Workers' Benefit Fund to meet the obligations of the BOLI expenses fund. That's in section 11, subsection 5. The amendment provides this committee with the authority to review any plans to increase the balance of the BOLI expenses fund should there be a shortfall. That's in section 5, subsection 7. And finally, the amendment provides just enough time for the 1/10 of a penny assessment on each side to maintain, without any interruption, the positions that were only temporarily funded by the Workers' Benefit Fund in 2025. So I hope this information has been helpful. Co-chairs, if you have any questions about the bill or its impacts on the workers' compensation system, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions? I see Sarah Duckwall has her hand raised.
Thank you, Co-Chair Priest. Thank you, Mr. Nasby. I have a question regarding positions. I'm reading in 2029 that you spoke about the reinvestment positions, but then it seems like there's a shift in 2029. Could you speak to that?
Happy to, Ms. Duckwall, members of the committee. I think we talked last time about there's two, I'm not sure if I'm going to use this word correctly, but I want to use the word tranches to talk about the positions. There's sort of two tranches of positions. the 2025 positions that were temporarily funded by the WBF, the bill proposes to maintain those positions at the same time the temporary funding expires. In addition to that, the Senator Taylor's work group considered the needs of the agency. And so the expectation is that after we maintain those temporary provisions, the fund will grow enough to support the remaining positions that the Bureau needs. I want to say it's 2 years after that. So I hope that's helpful. If not, let me know. I'd be happy to follow up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering about guardrails. It says new positions and, it says a fund, there's a greater of 19 million or 24 months of reserves. So where really are the guardrails? Because the greater of, and you're funding new positions, where are limitations?
Understood. Ms. Dugwall, members of the committee. The concept here is to take these 2 tranches of positions, freeze the number of positions, but adjust those for inflation over time so that the positions stay. And so that greater of language is intended to, it includes the cost of those positions today, as well as sort of the rolled up future costs of those positions. And so the idea there is to capture the growth and the cost of a specific number of positions over time. What I will say in terms of your guardrail question is the way this is currently drafted is the greater of these two. Oh, I'm sorry. It is at least the greater of. I think we've heard some concerns about that at least. And I think if the director of DCBS is comfortable with a tighter collar or a tighter target, I think we're comfortable with it too. But the overarching goal here is to account for these 2 tranches of positions and maintain the ability to pay for them over time.
Okay, I see another. Did you get your question answered, Sarah? Was that good? Okay. Looks like it. I have Stacy Llewellyn with her hand raised.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate the focus on trying to balance the cost burden between employers and employees, and definitely understand that the funds would be separated between the traditional WBF and bully expense. My question is more around what this could turn into in future years, and I don't have a great understanding of how bully is funded. I'm curious, would this in simple terms be if the general funding from bully was decreased in, let's say, 2029, looking ahead, would the assumption be that that gap between the bully budget, what was deemed needed for that year, and the general funding, if that general funding changed, would that difference come from these funds collected through the WBF assessment? Would that be the assumption?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. And I think the answer is, the assumption is no. The assumption is, and I'm going to keep saying tranche, even though I'm not sure that's the right word, but these 2 sort of buckets of positions, that's the intent. There's no intent to necessarily grow this over time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. I see a hand raised in the WCD room, so it could be one of a number of people. Sir.
Yeah, thank you, Co-Chair Priest. This is Sean O'Day, DCBS Director. I just want to weigh in a little bit and hopefully offer some clarity to some of the questions and the discussions taking place thus far. So as Senator Taylor noted, we've been providing technical background and expertise and information to her staff and members of the work group throughout this process. And our primary interest from where we sit as an agency is just ensuring that there's clarity, that administration of the fund would be administratively feasible, and that there be sufficient safeguards put in place to protect the WBF funds that are collected for injured workers, that those would be segregated, managed separately, and that there be no commingling of these funds. Because from a director's perspective, the worst case scenario, as I think members of the committee are aware, we set rates after doing financial forecasting and modeling throughout the summer in September of every year to go into effect in January of the subsequent year. And my worst case scenario is that shortly after setting those rates, we see a downturn in the economy, one for which we did not forecast or expect, and then ultimately our revenues would come in below our revenue targets that we had established during that rate setting process. Reviewing the bill, it's very clear that should such an event occur, the BOLI expense fund would take its proportionate share of that revenue reduction, and BOLI would, of course, employ management tools to deal with that situation. And the WPF would be subject to the current existing statutory levers that give me as the director the ability to shift benefit levels and make other adjustments with a report to this committee on what our plan is. So the idea, as I expressed to Senator Taylor in the work group, is that it'd be important that nothing about this concept interfere with the levers and the process in which we currently engage, should we have that worst case economic scenario. And I can assure you that the language of the bill accomplishes just that. To Josh's point about what we really need when it comes to setting the rate and calculating what the BOLI component of this would be, is really just a clear revenue target. And I think the timing of a rate setting and in the out years of this concept really work well with the way that the state does its budgeting, because we will know by June 30th of every odd year what the appropriation is to fund these particular positions. That number, once BOLI sends that over to us, is really all we need to be able to do the rest of the analysis to calculate that BOLI component of the rate. So those were the 2 points that I wanted to share with the committee, and also happy to answer any questions that you might have about kind of the technical mechanics of how this all works.
Thank you for that. And I see another hand raised. It might be a question for you or for someone else. Sarah.
Thank you, Co-Chair Priest. Director O'Day, thank you for that. I'm wondering, what if BOLI comes to you with a myriad of new positions? How would that affect rate setting?
Yeah, thank you for that. So if they said, and I really think it kind of comes down to the part of the bill that you're asking about right now, is there a number cap, is there a position cap, or is it just an open-ended? We don't have a position as an agency on that policy choice. I think that's for Senator Taylor, the work group, and BOLI to work out with the stakeholders. Where I would be and where I would sit is, again, at the end of the day, I just need to know what that revenue target is, that we can then apply the analysis to as to what the rate would need to be to project, how much revenue we would likely, collect, barring any unforeseen, economic downturn.
Okay, thank you. Scott Strickland has his hand raised.
Thank you, Co-Chair Priest and everyone. I think this is an interesting discussion to me. Really appreciate the impassioned effort kind of all around and understanding the work group. Want to thank Terry and WCD for sending out the matrix that I believe Senator Taylor referenced. I think that was really helpful in kind of seeing all the work that's gone into this. It's my understanding as kind of an outside observer on the process that there's been a work group that's been going kind of analyzing a bunch of different ways of doing things. This was sort of the supported mechanism to move forward on, and that MLAC's purview on this or that our kind of statutory charge that we're looking at is not necessarily a policy angle or concerns about funding levels or anything like that. It just relates to the kind of preservation of the worker benefit fund programs. And I know that we'd kind of gone through this, I think, with the issue back last year. I remember at the time, Director Stolfi and I think senior economist Baroshko came in and gave a presentation on the worker benefit fund and how it's at its the assessments at its lowest level, I think, in 30 years by far, by half, I think, for much of the time. But that again, that wasn't necessarily that's not what we were analyzing. We were analyzing the sufficiency of the funding for the programs that currently exist. And I feel like the presentation that we have before us is more about the guardrails preserving the existing programs and that this does nothing to interfere with the existing programs and would not do anything to interfere with existing programs moving forward. So I just kind of wanted to frame our discussion about that, or at least throw that out there as like that's my understanding of where we're going with this. And I feel like Director O'Day has just assured us that that's not a problem. I know Mr. Nasby and Senator Taylor have all kind of brought that up as well. We had the public comment, I think, to kind of kick off that seemed to touch on a ton of things. Impassioned, great discussion, interesting points. It's one of my things I love about MLAC is I learn something new every day. But I don't know that any of that relates to sort of what we're doing in our stage of the process. So I don't know, just wanted to throw that out there, kind of curious about that. Really appreciate the all the commentary and discussion so far, though.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Scott. And Mr. Nasby does have his hand raised again. Is there some clarifying comments you want to make?
Quickly, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Strickland, for that. I wanted to also thank Director O'Day for his point. I think we just sort of had a policy conversation on the fly there. And I think what I heard him say, as long as there's a target there, he's confident DCBS can reach that. So to the extent that the bill needs an additional guardrail on the top level that we just discussed, I think we would be open to that. So happy to sort of have that conversation going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the caucus? I know we had one public comment and he did not get to finish. And I wonder if he's still online, if he wanted to kind of complete his comments before we're done.
I think you're referring to me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate the extra time. Look, I'll wrap up with and I will submit my written comments, but I just want to acknowledge to Co-Chair Strickland's point that, the commingling of funds and the protecting the worker benefit fund, I really appreciate the work that Senator Taylor and Boley, Mr. Nasby has put into that. That's not what's keeping me up at night if this bill passes. NFIB and our small business members are incredibly protective of our workers' compensation system, which I know is a value that you all share. And today, the legislature is looking to use the workers' benefit fund mechanism, the taxing mechanism, to raise revenue for BOLI. Tomorrow, it could be a conversation, about $300 million for ODOT. It could be for PERS. It could be for public education. Whatever the good reason is that we're talking about raising revenue using this mechanism, we just want to be cautious about using it as for lack of a better word, a piggy bank to fund anything and everything that the legislature wants to fund without having to tap into general fund. So, for those reasons, we just urge caution on this and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And appreciate your time here today. All right, Scott Strickland, you got your hand raised again. So follow-up comments?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if we want to caucus briefly about this. Again, related to our statutory charge today.
Sure. We were going to pause at 10:45. We're right at that time, but Senator Taylor has raised her hand and I don't want to prevent her from speaking. So.
Thank you, Co-Chair Priest. And I'm sorry, because I've not testified here before. I don't know if this is appropriate. So you can, you don't have to call him. I don't know. Am I allowed to speak at this moment?
Yes, you're allowed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. So I'm sorry, everyone has their own, I guess I followed the parliamentary rules within the legislature. So thank you for allowing me to speak again. I've been listening to what everyone has been saying, and I just want to emphasize, I want the same thing that all of you want. I know we don't know each other personally and we haven't spent time together personally, but I was listening to what Ms. Llewellyn was saying and what Ms. Duckwell was saying, and I want there to be appropriate guardrails. I would never, and I tried as hard as possible with LC to make certain that those were in the measure. Again, third-party feedback was provided to me recently, and now I'm hearing the questions being raised here today. And I just want to emphasize before you go in caucus that I am happy to have this amended. An amendment's already being drafted. Please tell me what you would like to see so that we can have as strong a guardrails as possible. And I will happily, it will be an amendment from the committee, and I will happily, a personal amendment, a committee amendment, whatever folks want, and I will go ahead and have that put in because I want the same thing that folks are talking about. So I just wanted to emphasize that. Thank you, Co-Chair Priest.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Thank you for that. That's a good comment to end before we enter caucus and talk amongst ourselves as management and labor caucuses. I heard a call from Scott Strickland. I would join in that. And I guess let's see here. I've got some texts. I have gotten a request to add another bill, but I believe it is our time to caucus on this particular bill, and if we have time
You want
after
to do
the
it?
caucus, then we
Okay.
will move on to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, we are gonna caucus then. Okay.
Thank you.
Are they in caucus?
Sorry, I did something.
Okay.
No, it is.
Now it is. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Is management back?
I don't believe so.
I'm looking up how you can do it.
I think it takes like 30 seconds or something.
You're back.
All right.
There we go.
So management is back. We're sorry that we took a little bit of extra time. We had a healthy discussion, and I did not get a chance to visit with Scott, but we do have some questions. And so if you would like Scott to go into a caucus before we ask our questions, I mean, we can do that first.
Yeah, let's do a very brief one,
Okay.
if that works.
Yeah. Terry, is
Okay.
that something you can just have us caucus?
Scott and Patrick.
Yeah, I think.
Okay,
Sorry. I put everyone back in there.
okay. Can you put them back in, just the two of them in a room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Here, Scott's calling me, so I'll just go off mute.
Okay, there we go. That's good. Now we need music. That works too.
After talking. Right, Administrator Watson, I am back from speaking with my fellow co-chair and joining forces. We did talk a little bit, and we decided just to open the floor for any comments that there may be about this particular bill and any follow-up items or concerns that have been discussed in our caucus meeting. So I'd be looking for anyone to speak up if they would like. All right, Sarah Duckwall.
Thank you, Co-Chair Priest. I spoke in my questions earlier about some of my concerns speaking to guardrails. I would love to see a better understanding of limitations in that regard. I struggle with the transparency of this tax being put under the Workers Benefit Fund and not really understanding, or anyone beyond this group understanding that the increased assessment is not strictly for Workers Benefit Fund matters. Rulemaking would be helpful. Potential 3/5 vote would be helpful to increase the transparency and guardrails of this potential bill before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for that. Stacy, I see you have your hand raised as well.
I just wanted to echo Sarah's comments and say that I'm aligned 100% with everything she just said. I think that that's a very important piece to making sure that we are not creating a slippery slope or unintended consequences that we could see through this bill.
Okay. All right, Scott Strickland.
Yeah, I again would just echo, I have some concerns about what our statutory charge and our bounding is and staying within those lanes and having that accountability. So I just want to make sure that as we do this, there are policies we may agree or disagree on. We may even do so passionately for other purposes and wearing other hats. But when we're sitting in this chair in our appointed role to address MLAC issues, that we focus in on our charge for MLAC purposes. And I don't see how discussion of 3/5 and other things like that, votes and procedural issues, have anything to do with what we are seated here today and charged to address. So I understand that those concerns may exist. Folks may feel passionately about that. I really appreciate and respect that perspective. I don't think this is the forum for that, and I don't think that that's appropriate. I would encourage stakeholders to continue to engage. I know Sarah Duckwall mentioned, concerns about the cap, and I think there was some discussion with Mr. Nasby about a possibility of that as well. I think that's a great line of discussion. I think that again, totally narrows in on what our purpose is here, and would love to see that discussion or some additional information on that or other things move forward. But I would say this really needs to be narrowed to what our purpose is here. And bringing in, procedural concerns about the process of the bill, I don't think is appropriate.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Scott. Stacy Llewellyn is first on my screen, so I'll let her go first.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I appreciate Co-Chair Strickland's comments. I would say that some of our concerns are really coming from if we're protecting the Worker Benefit Fund, and that is our focus of MLAC and the structure thereof, if we start to see funding for BOLI, what stops us from getting expanded to other groups, other agencies, and really becoming something that is not Worker Benefit Fund at all. So I would say that's the spirit of asking these questions, of making sure that this is done thoughtfully and that the proper guardrails and caps and different things are considered so that we don't run into a situation later on down the road where we've created quite an animal by allowing this to go through without the proper considerations and guardrails that there should be. So
Thank you, Stacy, for that follow-up. Margaret Waddell has her hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry that we didn't get to the Ask Me vote, but we're at what, 11, after 11:15, and like Emily, I have to leave the meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know, Margaret. I'm sorry that we went long on this important topic. Look forward to seeing you next time. Sarah Merrick has her hand raised.
I am also at over the time limit that I can stay for this hour meeting plus, so I'm going to have to bow out as well.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Sorry for the delays. All right. With that, we've lost most of our participants, so I don't think we're able to address any other items on the agenda. Administrator Watson, can they be carried forward to next week's meeting?
Absolutely.
I see a
And
hand
next,
raised.
oh, I'm sorry, Co-Chair, next week's meeting is 2 hours long, February 5th, so we will have more time to discuss this, and I believe everybody will be there. I don't have anybody scheduled not to attend that meeting. So,
All right. And I do see in my screen, Senator Taylor is still online, as is Josh Nasby. I don't know if either of them have any follow-up comments or clarifications they would like from the committee.
I do. I don't know if Josh does, and so I appreciate everyone being here. And I know the Ask Me bill is also important, is coming up next week in session, and so the timing of all of this is very relevant. And again, I just can't emphasize enough. I'm happy to have the bill amended and have appropriate guardrails, and we can go ahead and work with DCBS, work with all of you. Please send your feedback. Josh and Jess from Boldy will be working with all of you. You'll probably be hearing from them today. Let's get the language in there the way that folks are requesting, and happy to do that. There's literally 120%, 200% agreement from my end. So there is no resistance to having all of that. When we start talking about what would stop people from doing things in the future and et cetera, remember, there would have to be the votes. And it would be very, very challenging for there to be the support in the legislature for something like that, in my opinion. I have not seen such drastic things occur. It just doesn't actually get all the way through, and it would also require the signature of the governor. So obviously I don't speak for the governor, but there is a lot that would have to go in order for people to, when people start saying things, using this for other purposes, wildfire purrs, is that like that, just, there's no nexus. And so it would be unlikely that these kind of things would ever happen, because they historically just don't happen that way. So I just wanted to, kind of share that little bit of that perspective from the legislative side. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you very much for being here and being so open to the comments. Mr. Nasby, did you have anything else to add?
I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate all of the concerns raised today. We want to address them and happy to chat. So thank you all very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. All right, well, I guess with that, I think we've reached the end of this particular meeting, and I would call for adjournment. I'll seek a motion to adjourn since we're not finishing the agenda.
I don't think we can because we've lost quorum. So
yes.
we would just have to end.
Okay, all right, well, that's what we do. Thank you, Scott, for that. All right, well, thank you for an engaging meeting and active dialogue. And I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.